Hello, and welcome to our session today about best MBA programs for consulting. Okay, so a lot of candidates want to get into consulting, strategy consulting, specifically McKinsey, BCG, and Bain. From now on, we'll call it MBB. And how do you get into these firms? What are the best MBA programs to get into these consulting firms? Let's kick it away. Let's talk about it a bit more. My name is Shimri Winters. Hi, everyone. I'm a London Business School grad. I head the strategy team here at ARINGO MBA Admissions Consulting. ARINGO MBA Admissions Consulting is a boutique MBA admissions consulting firm. This is my only marketing slide. We help candidates get into top MBA programs, and you can check out the graph here on the right. Many of them are the top consulting recruitment MBA programs. We're very good. Again, check us out on aringo.com. We help with everything from strategy assessment, school selection, project planning, should you apply this year, next year, etc. Then with the application, interview prep, scholarship prep, school selection in the end, everything. Check us out on aringo.com. Let's get going. Before we start, before I talk about my agenda and everything, I just wanted you to understand why we're talking about consulting and why so many MBAs and students and pre-MBAs and post-MBAs actually talk about this thing, consulting. So as you can see in these specific schools, but generally if you look at the top schools, you'll see this blue stuff. The blue chart, the blue part of the pie chart is very big, and blue is consulting. Okay, so pause this for a second, and you'll see that tech is actually growing more and more, and it's bigger than finance in most schools, but that's just in second place. Consulting is the biggest industry that people get recruited to, and strategy consultant is the biggest job title and function for post-MBAs in most top MBA programs. We'll discuss the schools. So that's why we're talking about consulting so much, and less about healthcare. Check out our other videos about other topics as well. Okay, so this is an example of Harvard and Kellogg, and on the right, and INSEAD on the left. But again, you will see this kind of stuff in other schools as well. It won't be 38%, it'll be 32%, 33%, so what? Okay, very high percentages for consulting. Okay, let's talk about my agenda. So I'm going to talk about why go to consulting. Okay, and if you're going to top MBA, why should you even think about a career path in consulting? Let's talk a bit about how the consulting works, how is the recruitment process, and maybe a bit about your criteria. Should you change maybe your school selection, your school ambitions because of this presentation, and because of your criteria for consulting firms later on. I'll definitely talk about names of schools. I've already mentioned 3, which are very big hubs for consulting recruitment, and maybe a bit about regional differences as well, and maybe some of my takeaways. Very short presentation. Let's cover all of this. So why do consulting, why is consulting such a path, things like that. So first of all, consulting is really good because you can get into this job post-MBA, and it can be a very nice springboard into a next phase. So let's say today you're a lawyer and you have this ambition to go and work in a healthcare company. First of all, do that. That's great. But maybe if you go and be a consultant for healthcare companies for 2 years, then you have a very good, plus your MBA, you have a very good background to now go to like senior positions within a healthcare company because you have that kind of experience. But it would be very hard for you to be a strategy manager in a healthcare company straight away because right now you're a lawyer or something like that. So you can actually use the MBA as a bungee, springboard, think of whatever association you want, to go to consulting to then move into kind of leadership positions within the industry. And what's great about consulting is, and I was a consultant post my MBA in London, and what's great is that you can actually work every few weeks on a complete different project, sometimes on a different industry, definitely on different competences, marketing, strategy, finance, operations. So you can kind of do different things for different clients every few weeks. So this is actually fun, exciting, and probably the place you'll learn the most wide array of skills and knowledge from sectors and functions. So it's amazing. And then you can either continue in consulting or move to one of those specific functions. So I think that's the biggest kind of exciting thing about consulting. I don't want to put away the money. It's quite good. And there's definitely very attractive compensations, with sign-up bonuses, very high salaries, lots of incentives along the way. They used to call it, out or up, which basically is if you're good, you're going to get a lot of money and up, and if you're not good, you won't. I've seen some mediocre people stay in their firms, so I'm not sure about that, but definitely if you're good, you're going to make a very good compensation. And there's a lot of global opportunities. McKinsey, Bain have hundreds, BCG have hundreds of offices, and you can definitely get assigned to a project which is in a different city or even a different country, and even more than just one project. I've seen hundreds, I was going to say tens, but more, of consultants who moved. Usually they actually started like with a project, and then they just moved to that city or country with that project, staying in their consulting firm. So definitely a great global opportunity. And like we said, there's a very good way to move from consulting into something else. One of my best friends is an entrepreneur, finished a couple of years in one of the MBB firms. Him and two other partners opened actually a few initiatives, and they had the right network to get funding. They had the right network to kind of open doors. They had the right mindset to open their ventures. Some of them succeeded very nicely. Definitely, if you want to move to the client, so you've been doing consulting to a certain firm or to a certain group of firms, industry, and again, you might want to move to, you were doing consulting to healthcare, or you're doing consulting to fintech, and now you want to move and have kind of a corporate strategy position within that client. That's something very natural that happens a lot. Or just executive roles, either a partner in 10, 15 years within the consulting firm, or, executive roles elsewhere. Consulting is a great springboard for that. Okay, so how do you kind of evaluate MBA programs? How do you know kind of which program you should go to if you want to kind of maximize your chances to get into consulting after? Well, a very, very quick metric would be to look at the percentage of graduates entering consulting. There's so many metrics. Just now I can think of going to LinkedIn, and you can also find the number of people working in consulting. So this is not graduates. This is graduates, but from like all time that are still working in consulting. But I think you can just look at the school employment report and see the percentage of graduates entering consulting. You can actually see the total number of hires. Again, it might be skewed to smaller schools, but if the percentage is high, so what? But interesting. And again, you can kind of look at the school clubs, and usually the consulting club will be one of the bigger clubs on campus. And you can see how active it is. Do they have a fair? Do they have a recruitment event? Are MBB firms coming to campus to present their companies and do, business plan competitions and things like that? So you can kind of try and assess how strong the school is thinking about consulting. And like we said at the beginning, you can kind of look at alumni, and also through LinkedIn, also through the school, also just talking to people and seeing if there's an active network of alumni which are in consulting. Another thing which, again, I don't think is relevant for the top 15 MBA programs, but sometimes it's relevant for lower ranked schools. If you know you want to live in Belgium, although there isn't a global top ranked MBA program in Belgium, maybe the local Brussels MBA program is good for you. If you know you want to live in Canada, if you know you want to live in Strasbourg in France, again, maybe check kind of the local MBA program and check if that connects you to these good recruiters and the consulting firms. Again, I'm not saying it's bad to do a Harvard MBA and then try and look for a job in New York, but it's definitely challenging to do a German MBA and go and look for an MBA in New York, or even to have a great MBA from INSEAD, but then, to try and look for an MBA for a job in Chicago. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm just thinking out loud that focus on the geography you want to work in, and then just make sure that there is a good connection between the school, alumni are working in that specific geography. Internships are something very important. Most US schools will have them, a lot of the European schools as well. And consulting firms love internships. The reason they love internships is they make you work very hard for 10 weeks and they check you out. And then they're not obligated to offer you a full-time position. So it's very good for them, but if you're good, and usually the conversion rate is higher than 50%. So if you're good, they will offer you a full-time position, and usually also a sign-up bonus and things like that. It's also a good tryout for you. Maybe you will hate it. Maybe you won't like working 14 hours a day in a very stressful environment, and you'll decide, actually, I'm happy being something else. So I think internships are great, but definitely a very good way to get recruited. Okay, let's talk about the powerhouses. Let's talk about schools which are very strong for recruiting. So definitely, if you look at all the M7 schools, Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, MIT, Chicago Booth, Kellogg Northwestern, MIT Sloan, Columbia, if I didn't say that, definitely very high consulting rates for post-MBAs in the range of 30%. Okay, I mean, a third of, a fourth or a third of all MBAs will go to be a consultant. And if you look at the top recruiters in each of these schools, you will see that the consulting firms, or at least McKinsey and BCG, are 2 out of the top 3 or 2 out of the top 4. And usually it's going to be the McKinsey and BCG are the top 1 and 2 recruiters in all these business schools. These are also quite big MBA programs with hundreds of students every year, and in the high hundreds, very high hundreds in some. And this means there's, literally hundreds of students that go to consulting firms. Some of the other schools are just smaller, and this doesn't mean that you can't get recruited to them. I actually have a ex-client from about 6 or 7 years ago. I'm actually rooting for him to become a very young McKinsey partner soon in an international geography, not in the US. And he went to Darden, Virginia, and found the job quite easily afterwards at McKinsey. And again, this doesn't mean you have to go to these specific schools, but definitely look at the schools, look at the clubs, look at the alumni. Just make sure that you know where you're going to. Again, these strong top 15, let's call them, schools have good percentages of MBA students that go to consulting. So don't think you have to go to Columbia to get into McKinsey. That's just not true. The European schools, so INSEAD is probably one of the schools with the highest rate of MBAs that go to consulting. And as you saw in the first graph, in some years it was even as high as 50%. London Business School, another very big recruiter consulting. And again, this is a bit due to the location of London, maybe a bit due to finance going a bit lower, and then consulting firm kind of recruiting more and more MBAs. But some of the other top European and international business schools are also good for recruiting. So again, if you're really interested in living in and working in China in the future, maybe check out CIBS or other Asian programs that have strong recruiting to consulting firms. Again, a lot of other schools as well, so check them out. And here are some percentages. I put here some notes as well. You can kind of pause this slide and go through it. But like I said, like Dartmouth, which maybe isn't the first school you thought about, actually has a huge percentage of consulting. The smaller class, very high percentage. Not a bad idea if that's what you're looking for, and maybe you got into this school and got a scholarship or something. So same output that you maybe would have gotten from a more expensive school. So you just have to think, is the MBA the main target here, or just the means to get into your dream job, something like that? Again, you can pause this slide and kind of look through it. I put here like some infograph. Very nice, very nice. There's some numbers here, but remember that INSEAD is a bigger class. Plus, it has two campuses, one in Singapore, one in France, and two start dates every year, September and January, than London Business School. So, although 130 people went to consulting, it's also a bigger class. Same goes for some of the US schools, but you can see, like I said, the numbers can be in the hundred. Who went in 1 year to the MBB consulting firms. Remember, there's other consulting firms as well. Some of them are very good, Strategy and Deloitte, and others. So more boutique ones, more niche ones, more tech ones, more energy focused ones. So there's lots and lots of consulting firms. And yes, there are some regional differences, but not big ones. So again, the top European programs, top US programs, the top Asian programs, look, the numbers are very, very similar. It's not that you'll see kind of zero. In Asia, you might see some more local consulting firms or some more Asian-specific consulting firms. Again, nothing bad with that. And another slide to kind of look at a bit. Very nice slide, but not much I can talk about. Okay, we're nearly done. My last slide. Let's talk about some takeaways and what you should do to maximize your chances to get into a consulting career. So again, if this is what you really want to do, you're in good shape, because an MBA can, and if this is what you want, should be able to lead to a consulting firm, especially if you go to a top MBA program. Okay, so that's good. How do you maximize it? Well, definitely look at the MBA, try and get into the best MBA you can anyway, but you're in a good place, because if you do manage to get into even a top 15 US program or one of the top 2-3 European or UK programs, they have such a high percentile of consultants, post-MBA, and of course absolute hires, same thing, big percentile, so a lot of people. So you're in a good place. Yes, you can also consider, the network, and maybe the location itself, the class size. Okay, smaller schools might have a smaller absolute number, but if the percentile is very high, so maybe it's the same. So you need to think, is that a factor or not? I think summer internships are very, very important. I'll give an example of INSEAD. INSEAD have a September term that doesn't include a summer internship in the middle. And you can also start in January, the J term, but that includes a 2-month internship. A lot of the INSEAD candidates are looking for a career shift into consulting. And a very good way to do it is to take this internship with two hands and to utilize that to check out the consulting world. Like we said before, it's also for the company to kind of check them out, but it's also for you, for the candidate, to see if this world is for you. So I love internships, especially for career shifters. I think that's very important. Just a few other things, like we said, definitely choose, an MBA that you've seen has proof, MBB pipeline. But look also on, also on LinkedIn, and also just, through the consulting club, etc. Do they have kind of a consulting alumni network of mentors or something like that? And again, just do a bit of research before you kind of apply to the school, etc. I think that's very important. Always. I think we discussed a few other geographies as well. So I think that's kind of it. I think if you are already in an MBA program, or you're very anxious and want to know what you can do while you're in the MBA program, so I think there are a few things you can do. And you don't really need to know this before you get into the MBA, because once you join the consulting club, day one as a fresh student, you will kind of be, you'll hear all of this. Okay, you'll hear this case competitions. You'll hear a lot of guest speakers. Your resume and cover letter will, there'll be some events to work on your resume and cover letter, because internships happen very fast. 3-4 months after you start your MBA, you'll already have to submit an application for an internship. So they will help you. They'll also help you with the cases. As some of you know, there's kind of interviews, two sorts of interviews in consulting. There's the case interview and a fit interview. And a lot of times, second-year students who've already secured a job help first-year students. Again, you'll hear about all this through the clubs. Definitely try and do some network, either through the school or through your own initiatives. With MBB consultants, that'll be very good. And like we said, definitely look at the employment reports. And also, when you're in the MBA program, you can kind of use that to kind of know who to try and contact, etc. So I think that was it. I love this topic because it's a very popular one. Check us out on aringo.com if you have any questions, and you can always send me your CV, GMAT, profile, career, ambitions, and school wish list to shimriw@aringo.com. I'm always happy to do a free profile evaluation for you. Check us out, see our other videos. Bye for now.